On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast, Chicago Cubs baseball is back, albeit of the spring training variety. With the first game on Friday, Brendan and I will get you ready for a Cactus League slate. We'll look at Jameson Taillon and more, all on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on February 19th, Thursday. I had to look at the date.
You got the date right.
I never know what day it is. Until the regular season starts, I don't actually know what day of the week it is or really what month it is. But on tonight's episode, Brendan, we are the last show. And if you're listening to this on Thursday night live on YouTube, hello, Friday morning, perhaps on your morning commute, this is your last day without some version of Chicago Cubs baseball, exhibition or otherwise, for several months. Brendan, here we go.
8 months. I've been waiting the entire winter, waking up every day, coming home, not knowing what to do with my time. And finally, Corey, I know when I wake up in the morning, I get to read about Cubs news. When I come home in the afternoon and evening, I get to watch either Cubs highlights or Cubs games. This is the best 8-month stretch of the year, and we're at the forefront of it. I'm beyond excited.
Yeah, so as we were saying, the Cactus League schedule kicks off on Friday. The Cubs and the White Sox out in Arizona, that game at 2:05 Central Time. And it will be Jameson Taillon getting the ball for the Chicago Cubs before he heads to the World Baseball Classic for Canada. And I think on tonight's episode, we'll talk about him. We've spent a lot of time, Brendan, looking at maybe some of the guys we're hoping are those top of the rotation guys, Horton, Cabrera, Justin Steele when he comes back, Matthew Boyd as he was last year for the better part of the season. And we certainly spent a lot of time on Shota Imanaga with the qualifying offer, him accepting all of that stuff. But we really haven't spent a lot of time on Jameson Taillon. And he's been a pretty important part of this rotation, albeit not always the top part of it. But when we talk about that depth and the importance of it, a solid starter like Jameson Taillon is certainly an important one. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about Matt Shaw continuing to get those reps in the outfield. Craig Counsell alluding to potentially some starts when a left-hander is on the mound and him playing in the outfield. So we'll talk about that. Some of PCA's adjustments. Plenty to talk about on this episode as the Cubs begin playing baseball games. I got to tell you, Brendan, before we jump into the first Cactus League game, Jameson Taillon, like we got they had their photo day out in Mesa, and that first shot of Alex Bregman in the Cubs pinstripes, wrap it up. Absolute cinema. I've dreamt of that photo so much, and seeing it, I'm just like, this is perfect. It fits. Looks great.
It looks so good. Cubs Productions, unbelievable job the past week, doing exactly what I want to see. I want to see sunrise photos, and we got those with Cubs pictures in addition. Players, we got PCA with a stormy Arizona sunrise. We got the infield crew with the sun gleaming over the clouds. I mean, phenomenal job. Again, just to emphasize, the best time of year, Corey.
Well, hopefully, October
the best
is the best time of year.
October.
You're going to say you're too nervous in October. Yeah.
I mean, do you even eat food in October? You're the one telling me you don't eat. Corey loses 20 pounds every October.
I do enjoy it though. I live for the stress, I think.
You do have a different aura about yourself in October. Like if I talk to you after, I mean, I'm the same way, don't get me wrong, but like I can notice it with you. When the Cubs win a game in October, it is as if the world is perfect. We live in perfect harmony in
Yeah.
October if the Cubs win.
Listen, man, that's what we're here for, right?
That's right.
But yeah, it's fun getting all that content. I mean, I know what Bregman was voted in some survey as like the
Most
most
irreplaceable player.
irreplaceable,
Yep.
free agent or signing from this offseason. I love it. Yeah,
We
I
already
mean,
got complaints about Bregman being talked about too much as a clubhouse leader. I'm like, listen, you keep posting articles about it. I'm clicking. I don't care how many
I
clubhouse
love it.
leadership
Yeah,
articles
I
you want
can't
to
get
give.
enough of it. But
Yeah.
uh, ahead of the spring slate, I do want to start with Jameson Taillon and dive into tomorrow's starter, and just the impact that he can have. So I think he's had some weird periods, Brendan. One of my favorite times, I think, talking with you on this show was when his fastball was
Ah,
all over the place.
ah,
And we were looking at the horizontal movement
that's
every
right.
episode.
That's right.
And I do mean that because it was fascinating. It was fascinating to sort of try and watch a pitcher like figure something like that out and like seeing the struggles, but being able to kind of identify like this is what's happening. And I'm not sure he can deal with it. If you can hear my dog,
Dude,
Dexter, in
Dex
the
is
background, he's
pumped.
hyped for spring
He is
training. Yeah.
pumped for a game tomorrow.
Waited all day until this hour to start barking. So that's just how that is. But Tyone, one thing I think that stands out about him, and I know he was chirping at some fans because they were getting on him when he gave up like that first day of workouts. He gave up a home run to Alex Bregman in the backfields of Mesa, and fans were getting on him, blah, blah, blah. And he was sort of chiming back at them, where some were saying, oh, he's in mid-season form. And he was like, hey, like, it's not really a diss when you give up 3 runs or less in 19 of 23 starts and you're starting meaningful playoff games, which, hey, touche. And I love it's like, he's clapping back, but in a very respectful and like,
Well, that's Jameson Taillon.
19 of those 3 runs or less, 14 of those 23 starts in 2025 of the quality start variety, which of course, famously, if you remember that, piece on the score, really bad, right? Quality starts are really bad. All of a sudden.
No comment.
But yeah. He's been a valuable member of this rotation. And I think when we look at I don't want to use the word concerns, but just the potential drawbacks, let's say, of some of the other guys in this rotation, or the things that could get in the way of them being great and reaching their ceiling. You need sometimes these stable guys like Tyone, who 23 starts last year, but the previous couple years with the Cubs, at least 28 starts in both of those years. It's been a stable option, even if inconsistent at times.
Yeah, the way he's evolved as a player to achieve that consistency you're talking about, fascinating. Because in some respect, it's a template for how you can apply other young pitchers to evolve in a similar fashion. So we talk about Tyone. 4 years ago, he was a north to south pitcher. He was throwing a four-seam fastball and a curveball that just went, straight down within that same window. We talked the first year as a Cub about the fastball losing its shape. It was running more. It had more run. By the end of the year, Taillon said, to paraphrase, I can't fix it. Something's going on with my finger coming off the ball. I can't fix it. It'll be an offseason plan. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not good. Finished the year with a 4.8, I believe, ERA. The next year comes back, looks much better. ERA drops to around 4. Last year, I would describe as a new guy. He developed a kick changeup. He started using his cutter more, and that sweeper that he developed in the first year as a Cub became more effective with the other 2 pitches. So in 3 years as a Cub, he developed 3 unique pitch types. And the changeup in particular was one that gave him a lot of success against left-handed batters. So I'm interested in seeing how a healthy Taillon performs in this year. We talk about projections. Projections more or less weigh each player's last 3 to 4 seasons with an historical comparison. Jameson Taillon's 2022 and 2023 is not comparable because that version of Taillon did not have these three pitch types. So when I look at how you can break the projections, it's those players that have recently evolved and developed new pitch types that give me confidence that if a projected 4 ERA guy is giving the Cubs 150 innings, well, maybe the 150 innings could be a 3.5 ERA if the changeup is good, if the sweeper is just as good. And Taillon fits that mold because he is the staple of what we describe as an evolving pitcher with those three pitch types.
Yeah, I'm curious to see his impact this year. And look, I know, sometimes like even going back to the quality start thing, I know it's not like the, big time stat and, some of those starts, yeah, he's giving up 3 runs or less, but he wasn't going deep into the games, et cetera. But you need guys like this. You need these guys that you can trust and rely on. And especially if you do have those other guys in the rotation healthy and pitching at their best, you get Justin Steele back later in the season. Having a guy like Jameson Taillon at the back of this rotation as one of the guys that you're not really counting on for anything other than just to be a stable presence there makes the rotation very, very strong.
I mean, it comes down to health, right? You saw what he was capable of when he was healthy in September and October. I mean, by October in the playoffs, he was my personal most trusted starting
he was the most
pitcher.
reliable guy they had. Yeah,
That's right. And he came through in the clutch. I mean, it was in that Milwaukee series, right? In the San Diego series. I'm stressing when Taillon's not pitching with anyone else starting the game. And I believe Kirk Counsell was saying exactly the same. And he used Taillon as the example to inspire confidence about other pitchers. And to paraphrase what Counsell said last week to the Chicago media, he said, for pitchers, it can change really, really fast. It can involve having a new pitch type. Look at Taillon, for example, is what Kirk Counsell said. And it makes me think, okay, well, who else can do it? Can it be Ben Brown? Can it be Jordan Wicks? Ben Brown developed a new changeup. Jordan Wicks developed a new curveball. Can it be other guys just returning to health? Shota returning to health? Guys just evolving and adapting. Edward Cabrera maybe changing how he attacks batters. There's a lot of different ways the Cubs can achieve real starting pitching value that is not being projected right now.
Yeah, and just speaking of those playoff performances, he starts 2 games for the Cubs, 8 innings total, 2 earned runs, 7 hits in those 2 games. And I think just goes to show, Brendan, like something we've talked about in terms of like best laid plans and how you kind of like envision things getting to the playoffs. Like it's not always as you necessarily anticipate it's going to be.
I mean, it wasn't last year at all.
Yeah. And
like
as you said,
stuff.
He's been a reliable guy at times, inconsistent at other times. But I think if you had told people that perhaps he was going to be your most reliable, available arm come October as they were going through the playoffs, like I don't know that a lot of people would have believed you. But sometimes guys step up and, it's who's available at the time. And Taillon did that last year. So curious to see, how he starts things, as always, like I don't care what his results are tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see if and how he's used in the WBC. I think that's an interesting thing for any of the guys that are going for the Cubs. I mean, I think obviously you don't expect them to be worn out, but I think that's as fans of a specific MLB team, I'm excited for the WBC, but especially for the Cubs guys, I'm like, all right, well, let's keep the workload light. Like let's keep everybody healthy. Let's not go crazy here.
Keep it efficient.
Yeah, if you need to run guys into the ground, like I'm sure there's a couple Brewers or Cardinals on your roster
That's right. Listen, Paul Skeens needs to throw a complete game shutout.
He does. He needs to throw a lot of bullets. I think that's correct.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to Taillon, and I think he's another guy too that brings that veteran presence, and I'm excited to see him continue to grow with this group in a year where these expectations have been raised. I'm always intrigued by those guys. He hasn't been a long-suffering Cub, right? But like he was at least here a little earlier than this nice little window that maybe we appear to be in now. And I always enjoy watching those guys finally get to go into a season with raised expectations, heightened, sense of excitement, et cetera, et cetera. And I think even, from his like light chirping with some fans, like I think you can feel that with him too. Like I think they're ready to go and they're excited to get this year underway. So we'll see what he brings in this first start with the White Sox. But I think Taillon, if not a particularly heralded one, I think a pretty, potentially big part of this team, and at least the way that this pitching depth is structured, if he can be healthy and continue being mostly efficient in this rotation. So let's hit our first ad break here, and then I think when we come back, we can talk about Matt Shaw in the outfield.
Let's do it. All right. Bet365, whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. New customers, here is the breaking news. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Just download the app, sign up with code CHGO365, deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're in. And the action does not stop there. With the early payout offer, you're a winner before the final whistle. If you go up 17 points in an NBA game, guess what? Paid instantly. Your NHL team up by 3 goals. That's an early payout as well. If you're more into parlays, boost your potential with 100% parlay boost and double your winning spreads, totals, and player props futures. Use those bonus bets however you like. Download the app, use code CHGO365, and make every game moment more. Bet365. It is never ordinary. Must be 21 or older. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, in-app only. When game day stopped by the office, the biggest thing that stood out to me was how simple their whole process is. It's quick, comfortable, and completely personalized. You're in, you're out in about an hour, and it's real care from a local family-owned clinic that's actually listening to your goals. For me, it's the health journey that's about one thing: energy to be more active and just feeling better, more focused, more motivated in the day-to-day life. Because guys, if you're feeling that drop, low energy, less drive, the scale creeping up, hair thinning, muscles getting tight, it could be low testosterone. It's common as we get older, but it's also something you can just take control of. Whether your goal is peak performance, weight loss, hair restoration, or just becoming a better father, husband, and man, Game Day builds a plan around you. Testosterone therapy, vitamin support, medically guided weight loss, and the success rate speaks for itself. You can start at almost any age, even late 20s and up. Check out their locations in Skokie, Naperville, Libertyville, and more. Scan the QR code or visit GameDayCHGO.com to find their clinic closest to you.
All right, Brendan, back with you here. And I do want to talk about Matt Shaw, and I think we can pair that very nicely with the wonderful ad read that you just did. And this segment is brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Better father, better husband, better man. Go to Game Day Men's Health. Visit GameDayCHGO.com to find locations closest to you. And I think Matt Shaw is our Game Day Men's Health difference maker. And I think especially the way the Cubs are talking about utilizing him, he represents to me that biggest potential to be a difference maker for this club. I think we've talked a lot about the expectations that a lot of players have on this Cubs roster, a lot of them very consistent. I think you kind of know what you're expecting. Certainly some of them continue to elevate their expectations and their ceilings. But I think switching Shaw from the everyday third baseman to this potential super utility guy, if it works, Brendan, it is going to put the Cubs in a fantastic situation. What do you make of the effort potentially to have him play in the outfield?
It's curious. I don't know what to think of it. I have an unclear expectation for him. What I do know in the past couple of years, the defense in the right field has been a little bit underwhelming. I think that passes the eye test. I was underwhelmed by Tucker's defense in the right field. Wrigley Field plays a little bit challenging with the wind. It plays challenging with the well in right field. He got 350 plus down the line. So Tucker looked a little bit uncomfortable, I thought at times. Not bad. He rated just below league average with a -2 outs above average. Seiya, for the most part, I think does look fine. There's just instances where things are bizarre with him. Losing the balls in the lights, losing the balls in the sun. But for the most part, it appears as if on the regular, he does track the ball well. With Shaw, I'm just asking to do what Tucker and Seiya have done, and maybe even a little bit less. I'm just looking for slight competency. I'm not looking for a Gold Glove defense in right field. I'm not looking for an outs above average in the red. I'm looking for an outs above average that's not just ice cold blue.
Yeah.
Just something that's, within the 30th to 50th percentile of value.
Would you like, to me, and maybe this is projecting too much onto him, but I would be kind of surprised if he's not passable out there.
He's such an athlete. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
like that's where I think of it. I mean, like there's certain areas where you're just not sure. Like, can he like I'm not expecting him to start hosing guys from the right field corner at, third base. Like I don't think he has the arm for that. But just in terms of like his athleticism, moving from second base to third base is certainly not the same thing as playing the outfield. But young guy, heralded prospect, obviously a very gifted athlete. Like I I don't know what I think the ceiling could be there, but like I think I would be surprised if they tried that and we were like, "Whoa, like this is not going to work. Like this is a disaster out there."
Yeah, I mean, the athleticism speaks for itself. 90th percentile sprint speed. It's the familiarity, though. It's
Sure.
reading
Yeah,
the
of
angles
course.
off the bat. The one area of immediate concern is his comfort with PCA in center field, who's unique
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. So I would love to see Shaw play a ton of right field in spring. Those gaps are huge, by the way, in Arizona. So the more comfort those two can get, especially with Pete playing in the World Baseball Classic, the better. So honestly, my preference, we'll see how Craig does this, but my preference is to play Shaw almost every inning that PCA is out there, every single inning in right field.
He's going to have to get used to. We saw it early in the season last year where, Happ and PCA seemed to have to kind of like work through like, Pete, you don't need to call every ball that's in the air. Like you can call most of them, but sometimes I can catch this, right?
Just do what Tucker does. Tucker was just veering off every single time.
All right, all right. So it was Bruce Levine, I think, on the score the other day, and he was suggesting that specifically when left-handers are starting against the Cubs, that Suzuki would DH and Shaw would be in the outfield. Now, that's not necessarily going to happen every single day, but certainly that represents the better opportunity for Shaw to hit, and maybe that's the plan. And, look, we've looked at the numbers, between Seiya when he's DHing, when he's in the outfield. I do think getting him off his feet every now and again is a good idea. Letting him rest. And it's not because I have any qualms with his defense, but I just think he's shown that DHing sometimes and not being out there every day helps him as a hitter. It's interesting. Again, I agree with you in that I would love, I do think continuing to get that work at third base is going to be important. He made major strides there, but it's still a relatively new position for him. And as we know, just like getting those reps, getting your 10,000 hours is going to get you're going to get better. You're going to improve your
Well, he was
footwork.
the first positional player, at least from what I can tell, seeing the photos, the first positional player in Mesa dating back to the end of January. So
Yeah.
he's well aware of what needs to
I
be
think
done.
he lives there, doesn't he?
He might, I'm not sure.
Not that it matters, but
Yeah.
I think he lives there.
Yeah.
That being said, though, when you make a move for Bregman, and Nico even joking about he wasn't joking, but
No, he was dead ass
the
serious.
scrum
That's
had
right.
a joking tone to it when they were asking if he would ever take a day off, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, Nico was definitely not joking when his answer was no.
No.
No. But you do have an infield of guys I think you want Craig to get them off their feet every now and again, not play literally 162 games. Don't play through, a fractured rib or anything like that, or a bum knee. Like take a day off every now and again. But you do have three guys, especially in Bregman, Dansby, and Nico, that, you're expecting them to play basically every day. So Shaw being able to fill in not just at DH or not just for one of those guys, I don't think they'd ever put him at short, but it's
You never know how the
probably something
injuries.
he could
Yeah.
do at least for a day.
Yeah.
Having the ability to get in that outfield and switch in with those guys, give Seiya a day off. Obviously, if Ballesteros, depending on how that's going and his opportunities at DH, it's just going to give him all the more opportunities. And if he is able to continue making those adjustments and capitalize on the better portions of that big second half that he had, you're going to want him in there. And that was
For sure.
something that was discussed when the Bregman move was made. Like, well, what if Shaw continues growing and reaches that ceiling? Like, where are you going to do it? Like, this is a way for him to really solidify, like, okay, like I think between spelling these guys, DHing, And if he can play in the outfield every now and again like that, he should have plenty of opportunities, I would think, at that
And
point.
it's not the only path forward to get those at bats. We can look at just how they're spaced out right now. Let's say Kevin Alcantara does start to perform better than expectations. Alcantara gets more at bats. You can still shuffle the pie around, if that's even the right term for it. But you can start
Shuffle the
subtracting.
pie.
I don't know.
That's a new one. I
Listen.
like it.
I got the flu over here. I'm like Michael Jordan doing this
I know, I
podcast.
like it.
Okay. But you can still make the at bats work. It's another road to achieving value. And if it doesn't work out defensively, then I would like to see Kevin Alcantara obviously take that next step. If he doesn't work out, then maybe McCormick gets an opportunity. If he doesn't work out, then maybe if Dylan Carlson around the corner as well. So there's many paths forward. The question I'm asked by Cubs fans who may not follow the team as closely as you and I is, what about the outfield depth? They ask, so who's replacing Tucker? I'm like, well, you have Seiya Suzuki going out in right field, and then you have Moises Ballesteros DHing. It's like, well, what about Shaw? I'm like, well, Shaw can go around the diamond, spell Nico, spell Bregman, DH. And they're asking me, well, what if Seiya gets injured? What if Pete gets, who's playing the outfield? I'm like, well, you got a good point, right? So would it be Alcantara? Would it be Shaw? Having both those guys get as many reps as possible to show early on that they're viable would be really important. But that is one of the most pressing stories in spring, is how Shaw plays defensively, how Alcantara improves offensively, and whether McCormick or Justin Dean or Dylan Carlson can take that next step and prove their 26-man viability.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to watch, and just how the Cubs decide to structure this. To me, though, Brendan, like I really do think like the bigger thing is Shaw's hitting. If he's able to hit consistency, make those adjustments, and be a consistent hitter, like we've just I don't want to make it seem easy. And again, I'm really only going for like trying to get to passable, right? But like we've just seen like there's some awful defenders that teams throw out in the outfield. Now, that's not what the Cubs are going for, of course. Like their whole thing is defense. But I don't know, man. I just have a tough time not envisioning Matt Shaw being able to play a passable
It's just a matter,
outfield.
like the thing in right field is the ball angles can be
Sure.
weird. So if you're having a
Yeah.
dominant right-handed lineup, those slicing fly balls in the wind, those are just weird balls to hit. Now, here's the thing. If you can match up, which might be easier to track down, if you can match up a lefty pitcher that the offense is facing with an opposing team who's lefty dominant, then it might be easier to track down those balls, right? At the same time, if you're facing a right-handed dominant team who doesn't go oppo that much, well, that maybe gives another reason to start Shaw as well.
Yeah.
All this is to say is there's ways to play the spray charts and give Kevin Alcantara time in right field, or maybe the next guy up. If you are concerned about the defense, you can kind of hide Shaw in right field based on spray charts.
Yeah, well, and you say that, I don't know if this is why, but I think he's working directly with Quentin Berry, and he was saying that the first thing they're doing in these one-on-one sessions is angles off the bat. That's what
It's
the
tough.
focus is.
I
Yeah.
mean, some guys like legit say they prefer playing center field because it's easier to pick up. I believe
Yeah,
Chris
and
Bryant even said that.
yeah, I mean, look, Wrigley Field is windy. There's
It's a
bricks. There's
mess. You get the
alleys.
sun in your
It's a
eyes.
tough place to play. I mean, all the
That's right.
guys say that. So we'll see. But I do have the confidence in that, and it is one of the more fascinating things to watch. And I think especially as spring training gets underway, just like gauging how he looks out there, how often they're throwing him out there. And if it works, it's going to be a really valuable asset to this team, because it's going to allow not only for Shaw to get more playing time, but it just gives Craig Counsell the ability to continue to mix and match with these lineups, especially with the split dominant guys that you have in this lineup, and get guys off their feet. Like, not needing, we talked, you mentioned it, the outfield depth. Like, are these three guys playing every day? Like, being able to give these guys a day off and switch them around a little bit, not every day. Like, it's a big deal, and it helps,
Yeah.
prevent that wear and tear. And again, for some of these guys that are so drastically different against right-handed pitching or left-handed pitching, it just gives Craig a little more ability to finesse those matchups and say, hey, you know what? Like, we don't like this matchup with this guy. Here's another way we can sort of move these pieces around.
Yeah, I don't want bad defense out there. You're right. You can sometimes hide poor defenders in the outfield. Nick Castellanos in right field, Kyle Schwarber in right field against the Pirates in 2015. You can do it. I just value defense
Sure.
so much as a fan. I love watching quality defense that I think Shaw could turn into one. And I'm hoping he does. And if he doesn't, I still want a quality defender in some fashion. So if
Yeah.
that's Kevin Alcantara or someone else, I don't like leaving that position open just for like, whatever.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating part of it too. Last thought before we hit our second ad break, like you want him to be passable. Like I think that's like a good standard, like just to get to that point. But ultimately, unless his hitting is like off the charts, I do think the Cubs, they prioritize defense
That's
across
right.
across the team. It's very important to their identity as a team, not just on the infield, but all over the place. Like we talk about the Gold Gloves, but it's also, somewhat of how this pitching staff is built is to have the defense behind them scoop up these outs and vacuum everything up and keep the ball in the glove versus on the ground or anything else. So that will be an interesting thing to track. Like you want to give him the runway to try this, and you're going to need to give him the reps to get better. But if it doesn't progress to a certain point, do the Cubs ultimately say, "Listen, like we have to prioritize defense here. Like we're going to figure out another way for him to get those at bats if he's indeed needing of those at bats
And,
at the
and
time."
listen, shortstops, last point, shortstop coming through the system, most times they move to a different position. The best shortstops stay at shortstop. The really good shortstops, the really, really good ones, they move to a different position. So they can naturally, Fernando Tatis, right? Arguably the best defensive right fielder in the league right now, right? So he was a shortstop not even 2, 3 years ago. So guys move off. It's very much a possibility that Shaw turns into a competent defender. I just want to see the reps, and I have confidence that he can make it work. I really do. Okay. Let's take our second ad break here. Come back around and keep getting you prepped for tomorrow. Potawatomi Casino. All right, so let's talk about your next weekend escape or maybe just your next big night out, because Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee is everything you need just in one spot. We're talking thousands of the latest slots and table games. And if you're ready to refuel, you've got a ton of amazing restaurants and bars to choose from. Whether you're feeling fancy or just want a quick bite, they've got you covered. You don't even need to leave the property. You can stay in style at their luxury hotel. It's just steps away from what many call the Midwest's best sports book. If you're heading to a Bucks game this winter where they take on the Bulls, you can start your day right there at Potawatomi. Hit the sports book, then head out to the game. It's all right there. Super convenient. Milwaukee's got a full winter lineup and spring lineup coming up. Talking concerts, festivals, sports, you name it. Potawatomi is the perfect home for all of it. Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. Your win is waiting. Go check it out. New vehicles are in stock at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and this is your chance to score big during the auto show sales event. Head to Ray CDJR in Route 12 and Fox Lake and shop one of the largest inventories in the Chicago area with a huge selection of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models ready to go. Right now, take advantage of 0% financing for 72 months on select new vehicles. If you're looking for value, they got you covered. They have over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. From the moment you walk in, their team of brand experts is there to guide you in every step of the way, making the process simple, transparent, and actually enjoyable. Because at Ray CDJR, affordability matters with Ray's Price Promise. There are no add-ons, no hidden fees. The price you see, that is the price you pay. It is that simple. So if you're ready for a new ride, do not miss out on the auto show sales event going on right now. Visit Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or shop online at Ray CDJR, serving the community since 1963 and the only dealership we recommend.
All right, Brendan, back with you. I want to talk. I know you were looking at some of the stuff PCA is working on here to start spring training. I want to ask you too about this was a quote I know Bruce Levine put out the other day from Seiya Suzuki on his offseason work. Quote,
Yeah.
I wanted to get my contact numbers up. My slugging improved, but I needed to make more consistent contact.
Who said that, Seiya?
Seiya.
Cool.
So I'm curious just what you think, like, because I feel like we talked about this somewhat with PCA, and of course they're not the same player, but it's a tough needle to thread sometimes. You want to make more contact, but do you sacrifice that power to do so? Do you sacrifice some of the ability to really kill those pitches when you get them if you're making an effort to make more contact. Now, that being said, with Seiya, I think there's plenty of metric, but even anecdotally, like there's a lot of times where we see him swing and miss, or he's talking about contact, but just staring
Yeah.
at balls down the plate. So I don't maybe contact. I know he phrased it that way, but I know what he's getting at. It's a tough
Right.
thing to balance.
Right. I don't think he's talking about contact the way you and I talk about contact. I think he's talking about strikeouts.
Yeah,
And so,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
right. And with Seiya, he has an above average contact rate. So my brain starts spinning like, well, how much more contact do you want to make? He makes a 78% contact rate, about 5 percentage points, 5 percentage better than your average guy. I don't think that's what he means. Seiya weirdly has a below league average strikeout rates, which is worse than league average, but he makes above league average contact. So to your point, it's leverage, it's count leverage, it's plate appearance leverage. What is causing someone who makes above league average contact strike out more than the average guy? Well, it has to do with count situation and the context of the at bat. So I love that Seiya acknowledges it. I'm not sure how you go about addressing that. We've heard aggressiveness is something Seiya has fluctuated between. We've heard different, early at bat swing decisions is something he's working on. We'll see. Maybe it's a growing process, but we've covered this now for several years, trying to understand why Seiya makes more contact than your average guy, but weirdly strikes out more than your average guy.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm curious to see, if he does make any. I don't know that these would necessarily be mechanical changes, but just process changes.
I would say process changes.
Yeah,
Mechanically, he
process
seems
changes.
fine.
It's look, like I get as frustrated as anybody watching him stare at balls like down the pipe. You need him to come through, and I feel like those plate appearances happen too often. But
I mean, there was a stretch there, I think in August. I mean, the text messages flying off our phones were not happy.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I say that as a truther from day one.
Right.
But the tough thing too, Brendan, like these are tough things to adjust and address. Like, you're talking about a guy last year that hit 32 home runs. He drove in over 100 runs for the first time in his major league career. 326 on base, 478 slug, 123 WRC plus. And some of those numbers are only as lower because he did have, that month-long stretch or whatever, where he was just dreadful that, he ends up coming out of and being one of their better players down that last immediate stretch, has some big hits, in the postseason. Like it is a tough needle to thread. Like you don't want to correct too much.
Who he reminds me of? Have we talked about this? Who he reminds me of?
In terms of his offensive profile?
Yeah. Just like in terms of...
I think we have talked about this if you're going to say Alfonso Soriano.
Well, actually, that's actually a good comp. I was thinking... No, let me explain this because there's ways they're dissimilar. Kyle Schwarber. And here's what I mean by this. When Schwarber was a Cub, he was making above average contact from a slugger's perspective. And there are so many stretches where you and I are like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Like we were exhausted. And when he was let go during the COVID season, we wanted him back. But at the same time, like I'll fully admit, I'm like, oh, it's kind of nice not having to stress out about Schwarber not reaching his potential. We knew the potential was there. It's just it never clicked. And with Seiya, I see a lot of the same. I see that the power is really high in potential and ceiling, but it just doesn't click with consistency. So I wouldn't be surprised if it all comes together. We start seeing 40 plus home runs, 280 batting average, and we're thinking crazy thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly got the potential. I think there's those periods where he's a little too passive, but overall, like his numbers have been. He's a really valuable player for this team, and I think especially
it's like. Sorry to interrupt there. I just want to before I forget this. I don't think it's passive at times. Like I do think there's some passivity in his approach, but I think when he's really off, the timing looks weird, dude. Like it looks like he's swinging 3 seconds late on fastballs, and he's out in front 3 seconds ahead of curveballs.
It's an interesting quote too, because ultimately, like, you want guys to strike out less, and more contact is sometimes good. It depends on the kind of contact you're making, and you'd prefer not a big lineup full of guys that don't hit over 250 or anything like that. But like, the Cubs need him to slug. Like, to his point, like, he's one of the guys that the Cubs are looking at, like, fair, but we need you to slug, dude.
Listen,
Like, you got to be one of the guys hitting 30
that's
plus
right.
homers, man.
A 338 weighted on base average in 2026 would be a disappointment for me, especially losing Tucker. A 338 Wobo for Alex Bregman, I'm fine with it. But I have higher expectations. Now, the projections may not be in line with my expectations, but I want Seiya Suzuki to have 35 plus home runs, bat near 270 or above, have a decent walk rate, put up a weighted on base average of 375. I think it's absolutely realistic. And it's these huge dips in the valleys that have prevented him from reaching that.
Yeah. And so we'll move on to talk about somebody else, but I think it's interesting. Last note there, like, you do look at the way that his game has evolved as an MLB hitter. He did end up playing, a decent number more games in 2025 than his previous years. 151, 132 in 2024, 138 in 2023, 20 homers in 23, 21 homers in 24, 32. It jumps to 32 in 2025. But of course, the big difference for him, 285 average his first year, 283 his second year, 245 last year. So you can sort of see the fluctuations in, you don't always have to choose one or the other, but it has been interesting the way that he has evolved. The RBIs go way up, the homers go up, but the average takes a pretty big hit. And, to your point about weighted on base average, 358 his first year, 365 his second year, 343 last year, despite the higher.
Was it 343 last year? I don't know why I said 338. Yeah. I don't know if they changed.
I mean, you were pretty close. I wouldn't ding your. Right. Did you read that off the top of your head? Like, I think that's fine.
I mean, I can remember weight on base averages from 8 years ago. I do see in our very good friend Everett Tauscher 8377 is talking about Seiya coming through in big spots. Like you, intuitively, I'm like, I agree. But when I look at some of his splits, it doesn't align with that thinking. He batted 311 with runners in scoring position with 12 home runs. When the playoffs started, he was basically Barry Bonds at the dish. I mean, he's not only hitting big home runs, he's hitting go-ahead home runs, game-tying home runs. I mean, Seiya Suzuki was one of the hottest hitters in the league with Michael Busch during those first 2 series.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't their fault that nobody else could get hits or score runs. Yeah, I mean, they were doing their part. So yeah, going to be fascinating. I just wanted to bring up that quote because it's, it's always interesting when you head into spring training, especially, now his 4th year in the league. Always just sort of interesting to see what these guys are working on, or excuse me, his 5th year in the league now.
Isn't that crazy?
Sorry. When I was reading those stats, when I say his first year, I meant his second year. I don't know why I was ignoring his first year, but that was 111 games, rookie year as an MLB player. So a little harder to draw those comparisons as he's evolved. But this is his 5th year, if you can believe that. Crazy. That snuck up on me. That doesn't seem right.
I know. I mean, I'm looking at guys around spring training. I'm looking at Dansby Swanson. I'm like, what year is it? This is his 4th year already. Like, how did we get through Dansby's contract that fast? I'm looking at Nico Hoerner's debut from 2019.
Thinking about his debut and now whether or not the Cubs are going to give him a contract extension or not.
It's crazy. And then we always talk about this, but you brought this up in 2017 when we were talking about Ian Happ in 2017. Ian Happ, the rookie, and you loved his first interview talking about Ian Happ, and he was saying, "Oh, I just want to be a versatile player. I want to play in the outfield, play in the infield, wherever the team needs me." Right, and it's funny to see him transform into the team leader. 10 years, the Cubs player rep in some years. It's a fascinating storyline to follow. And then speaking of spring training, CHGO is going to be out in Mesa starting March 5th through the 8th. We got the Bears guys out there. We got the Bulls guys out there. It's going to be a beautiful time of year. That is the best time to go to Arizona. if you like 70-degree weather, if you like blue skies, if you like going to a casino, a brewery, a Cubs game, a Bulls game, any game, Arizona is the place to be. You can go to a question and answer with some of the staff at CHGO, talks to some of the Bears guys, the Cubs guys. It's going to be a great time. So March 5th to 8th, go ahead and check out tickets to get to this event. Very inexpensive. I was looking at tickets myself, actually, just to see what the prices are for games. I mean, it actually makes more sense to spend money on that event through CHGO than it does to spend single tickets for Sloan Park. So go check them out.
You can't beat, I see Barb in our live chat. We are live, Barb. Glad to have you here. But yeah, look, I mean, Brendan says it's the best time of year in Arizona, spring training. Luke Stuckmeyer, how can you beat it?
That's right. I mean, listen,
that's the real key. That's the selling point.
What, Luke Stuckmeyer?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Multi-time local Emmy Award winning
Luke
Stuckmeyer.
And there's Portillo's out there too, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the branch. It's a separate thing. We're getting distracted. Doesn't matter.
We can talk about Lou Malnati's too.
That's not Cubs related.
Quick 5 seconds. I was the first person in Lou Malnati's in Phoenix, Arizona in 2016. Just saying.
That tracks. Yep. That tracks for you. Yeah, I believe that.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about PCA. I know you were kind of taking a look at some of the things that he might do, how he might be preparing, taking some of the words of Alex Bregman to heart. What are you looking for? I know we talked about that a little bit in the way that he was, hoping to get his on base levels up and, just some of the things that we always talk about with PCA, and that Bregman was kind of diving into him. But as we start these spring training games, and as we're seeing PCA over the course of the next, what is it, like a month, just about a month, little over a month. What are you looking for? What kind of changes maybe do you expect to see him make?
I am not looking at him taking a swing. I'm looking at him stepping into the batter's box. This is what he said. He said that his stepping into the batter's box got out of whack. His setup wasn't consistent. I'm like, all right, that's kind of a weird way of putting it. So I'm looking at, like, is he going to develop a big poppy routine, spit in the hands and do the whole Nomar Garcia-Parra thing? I'm here for the new Pete Crow-Armstrong pre-bat routine. So I'm interested in seeing if there's some similar patterns we start picking up there.
He does, just because you bring it up. I mean, yeah, we've talked about some of the changes he can make to his game. And, I remember we talked to, like, kind of that balance between, you have a guy hitting home runs off of his shoes and at his eyes. Like, how do you rein that in? Do you not rein some of that in just in the name of making more contact or striking out less, et cetera, et cetera? Of course, his development against left-handed pitching is going to be a significant one, maybe even pairs with the conversation we had about Matt Shaw, like how he develops against lefties and how comfortable Craig Counsell is playing him every day. Of course, he's the best defender in the league at the position, an invaluable base runner. But something to keep an eye on, depending on how much he struggles or succeeds against left-handed pitching.
The worry is you overcompensate and you take away a feature of your approach that got you there in the first place.
Yeah.
And that is aggressiveness and conviction with your swing decision. So I am, in a worst case scenario, a little concerned that there might be an overcorrection. But
I don't think Alex Bregman will let that happen.
No, I mean, Alex Bregman will let anyone have an overcorrection. Are you kidding me right there? I mean, if anything, everyone's going to be hitting at least 5 more home runs. I
like to think that Bregman has already had the foresight to have that exact concern, and he knows exactly how to prevent that. I'm very curious. What I was going to say about his, stepping in the box routine or his pre-plate appearance routine, he not necessarily related to baseball, but I do wonder if Pete has a sense that he has the ability to influence like an entire generation of youth baseball players.
Dude.
I think I've said this before, like the irony of you and I, Brendan, is that you are the data guy, the big, stats. You don't like when I call you a nerd, but
I'm not.
Sure. Lance Brozdowski, the wonderful marquee contributor and analyst, referred to you as such. And I take that as a statement of fact.
Well, Lance was wrong. He's right about everything else besides that.
Sure. Okay. Anyway, he's like programming like, data graphs at 3 a.m. on his computer, but don't call him a nerd. But
That's right.
the irony is you were as you put it, a star baseball player.
Sure was.
If not for your bum knee.
That's right. Varsity sophomore
and
year.
I worked in MLB front offices, but I never played baseball. So the reason I even bring that up is I only know anecdotally and from experience the effect that like Nomar Garcia Parra had on people our age, and how even if you would go to a scrimmage or, go with your friends in the park, everybody's doing the thing with their batting gloves. They know it by heart. And that's how it is. We saw kids showing up to Wrigley Field with their hair spray painted blue with blue stars in their hair. Like PCA is one of those guys, man. Like if he starts some crazy pre-plate appearance routine, like you're going to see a lot, like in my, where I grew up, like, the BGRA league, like kids in Buffalo Grove are going to be doing whatever PCA is doing, whatever that might be. So if he does a backflip every time he gets in the batter's box,
so
kids are going to start. Yeah, so be it.
So be it. I mean, oh my God, when I was growing up, man, I got Nomar Garcia Parra's Louisville batting gloves. So that was a big deal for me. Big deal. I used to, when I was a little bit older, you may never have noticed this, but we talk about Alfonso Soriano's like hop in left field, right?
Sure.
He did something else. And he used to like run and kind of like tap his toes, drag his toes. I'm like, this guy's the coolest guy in the world. I'm going to start doing that. So I'm running out there to shortstop, tapping my toes like Alfonso Soriano. Like it's little stuff like that definitely catches a lot of young players' eyes.
Yeah. So very curious. I mean, again, that's just a small thing on PCA, but I think especially pairing with like the Seiya Suzuki conversation and just, how these guys, it's always a tough thing. You want to improve every aspect of your game, but sometimes it's not possible to do that without sacrificing other parts of your game.
Here's a question for you on the topic of improving and not sacrificing other aspects of your game. Nico Hoerner's power. We've talked about Nico Hoerner's power since he debuted as a rookie, almost 10 years now. We've heard from coaches, players, fans that there's more room for power in Nico's athleticism, yet we've not seen that translate to 15 plus home runs. We've seen him hit 10 home runs, but nothing more than that. Now, there's some bias when you watch these spring training videos, and it's always hard to tell for sure what's going on because it's just, live BP and, underhand soft toss. But some folks do think Nico looks a little different in the batting mechanics. And I've always pushed back that Nico had a room for power because if you start looking at his swing angle, you start looking at overall his swing path, he clusters with the Luis Arias guys, the Stephen Kwan guys, and those players don't hit home runs. So unless Nico changes his mechanics and bat path, I would not think he would hit for 15 plus home runs. But I do wonder if we see a little bit of a change in that swing path. And if you're personally comfortable with him experimenting with that, knowing what you saw from last year.
I mean, I trust Nico a lot. I think he's got a very sound he's one of those guys that understands the game very well. He understands who he is as a hitter, what his strengths are, and, just kind of what his role is at the plate. I'm certainly hesitant.
I'm hesitant
for
too.
him to make changes. Like, look, if he believes that he can tap into something, I'm guessing that what he'd like to be doing is hitting line drives into the left center basket, basically.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but like I don't think he's envisioning himself hitting, moonshots onto Waveland. I think he's got a specific probably vision for how he can hit some more home runs. The only concern I have is I find myself muttering this to myself at the games when he does this. When he hits like soft fly balls to the outfield, I mutter to myself, "That's not your game, Nico. It's not your game."
I must have like 10 texts of you saying that exact phrase to me.
And so again, like that's not what he's trying to do, hitting the ball so much in the air, but more on a line that carries into, the Wrigley Field bleachers. But that would be my trepidation there, is that, he's not a guy that has tremendous power. Whether there's more to unlock, I mean, sure. I think, that it sometimes is the case with a lot of guys. But, we know he's not a guy that has 80 raw power that is somehow just not being tapped into. And so I think the risk you run into is you try to do that, but maybe, enough of them, you just don't have that power to get there, especially with the way Wrigley Field can play someday. But the bigger, again, I trust him a lot, and the way that he would want to evolve his game, I would be very surprised to see him try to do that and sacrifice how valuable a hitter he is. I think if he were doing it, he'd really believe and understand the methodology of how he would be improving that. But really where again, I hate the word concern sounds too strong sometimes, but the thing that jumps out, Brendan, he was a 5-win player last year. 297, 345, 394, a 109 WRC plus, 4.8 wins above replacement. I got no issue with that. He's an excellent, excellent player. And on a team of guys at times, especially last year, where we were begging people to just make more contact and put together more solid plate appearances and attack good pitching and, cut down on the strikeouts, etc. I don't need Nico Hoerner to do anything differently. If he believes and the coaching staff believes that there's a way to unlock an even greater Nico Hoerner, I trust them to give it a shot. But he's just the type of player. I mean, he's so good. I don't need him to do anything different other than just be himself. If they want to give it a shot, though, be my guest.
He did finish the year with 7 home runs. I think that may get lost because the second half,
2 years in a row.
That's right. The second half, and specifically the last 6 weeks of the season, the power did emerge. Now, I was depressed during the playoffs in Milwaukee, but he hit a home run in Milwaukee, didn't he? In the playoffs when we were losing? I'm pretty sure he did.
I do not remember.
Right?
I was so miserable. I don't know.
Once the Cubs started losing their playoffs,
I was in a dark place. I don't know.
Right. My brain ceases just to function. But I'm barely sure he hit a home run when the Cubs were losing in Milwaukee. But the point being is the power did start to emerge a little bit. And now that I think about it, I wonder if there's some trends in the data or the swing path that lends to that. But I do wonder if some of those late season changes, if he were making that, whether mechanically or plate approach driven, if that carries over, and that 10 home runs we saw from 2023 that comes back. And I think a realistic expectation is if he does leverage some of the late season changes he made, 10 to 12 home runs is absolutely feasible. If that happens, with the contact profile he maintained last year and the defense he always maintains, well, the extra 5 home runs could make him nearly a 5.5 to 6 win player.
Yeah.
Entering your free agent year.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's the other thing too. This isn't a 35.
Yeah, he hit one in game 5. I knew he hit one in game 5. That's why I was so depressed.
Yes. The thing with him too is you're not talking about a 35-year-old one-dimensional player. This is a 28-year-old player who has shown a lot and succeeded a lot at this level, and he's grown in his career. And I don't think that this is the discussion of can he unlock a 25 homer potential, but just upping those totals and slugging a little bit more. I wouldn't bet against him, Brendan. I think it's just a fair place to start the conversation saying listen, man, he's phenomenal. I'm not, of all the players that are making adjustments and, needing to prove something against, a different handedness of pitcher or add this to their game or cut out this from their game. Nico's just not one of those guys that I look at. If he wants to become a 6-win player, I'd be thrilled about it. And I hope the Cubs give him the money for it. Hopefully they lock him up in an extension before he starts hitting 15 homers a year. He's going to be a lot more expensive. But yeah, I look at him and I go, of all the people I'm worried about or complaining about or needing them to do more, it's not Nico Hoerner. Yeah.
I got 10 seconds for my last stop before I sign off because I got the flu over here. My ideal spring training, is a Nico extension, a Pete Crow-Armstrong extension,
Wow.
and Shaw looking good in right field. If those three happen,
and pitchers staying healthy.
Everyone healthy. That's an
Yeah.
assumption, of course. Everyone's staying healthy as well.
Yeah, look, Tom Ricketts talked, I think, earlier this week and said the big priority for the family was to win more World Series championships. So I think some of those steps, especially locking up Nico Hoerner long-term, keeping PCA in the fold as long as you can, those are good steps to get there, Tom.
That's
so we can start there, and we'll keep building from there. But spring training starts on Friday. Enjoy it. And soon enough, it'll be time to get the regular season underway. So the CHGO crew will have you covered all through spring training and into the regular season. Don't forget to tune in to Luke and Joey throughout the week. Brendan and I appreciate your support. We'll be back with you next Thursday. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.